Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. This time, we're heading all the way down to Australia. We're going to be looking at an article that we found from the Koala News. It's called Cost of Graduate Visas to Rise in 2025, and it was published on December 19th, 2024. So what we're going to be looking at today is the implication of Australia's plan to increase their temporary graduate visa fees. It seems like kind of a dry topic.
It's anything but.
Yeah.
It's actually incredibly fascinating.
Yeah.
What's really interesting here is this idea that this seemingly simple fee change could have like these ripple effects that go way beyond Australia.
Right. Yeah, because it's not just about like a couple $100s. It's about, Australia's place in the world and the global competition for talent. So let's jump right in. The fees are going up by about 15%, and that ends up being a couple $100s for the main applicant. But of course, if you're bringing family members, it's going to be even more expensive than that. So why is Australia doing this? I mean, is it just to get a little bit of extra money into their budget? Or are they really trying to send a signal to potential students?
Well, the article doesn't explicitly say why, but there is a mention of something called Ministerial Direction 111, which I think is worth exploring a little bit.
Oh, Ministerial Direction 111, what is that?
So this is basically a set of guidelines that influences how visa applications are assessed.
Okay.
Now, they don't have all the specifics, but it does make you wonder if Australia is maybe trying to be a little bit more selective about who gets to stay and work in the country after they graduate.
So you're saying they could be using this as a way to kind of nudge people towards certain skills, or maybe even subtly discourage applicants from certain countries or certain fields?
Possibly, yeah.
That's fascinating. And how do you think this is going to play out for students who are, trying to figure out where to study?
Students are smart. They shop around. They look at their options. They compare costs and opportunities. So this fee hike could end up pushing a lot of those students to look at other countries, places like Canada, maybe the UK, who are already, they're already kind of making big plays for international talent.
Right. So Australia could be shooting themselves in the foot here if they start to lose their reputation as a top study destination. Think about what that would do to the universities. I mean, they rely so heavily on the revenue they get from international students.
It's true. It's like this really delicate balancing act. They've got the economic benefits that come with international students, all the tuition fees, all the money they spend in local economy.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, they've got this pressure to manage immigration and make sure that the people that they're letting in have the skills that align with their national priorities.
It's like they're sending a message to the world about how they want to position themselves in the global talent market.
Exactly.
So anyone listening who might be thinking, oh, this doesn't affect me, I'm not going to Australia, I think this has implications for everyone. It's a glimpse into how global talent flows are shifting.
Absolutely. It's all connected. What happens in Australia today could easily influence what happens in other countries tomorrow.
It's like a domino effect.
Exactly.
So stay tuned, folks. We're going to be right back to dig even deeper into this after a quick break.
Welcome back to our deep dive, folks.
So we're back, and we're still trying to make sense of this Ministerial Direction 111 that you mentioned. It's like this mysterious piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, it's kind of like a hidden hand that's guiding this whole situation. It sets the stage for how visa applications are evaluated.
So even if a student is willing to pay that higher fee, this direction could make it harder to qualify for the visa anyway.
Exactly. It really raises the question of, what is Australia prioritizing? Are they looking for specific skills, maybe a higher level of English proficiency? Or perhaps they're trying to, limit the number of graduates who stay on in certain fields. We don't have those specifics, but it's definitely something to think about.
Yeah, it really makes you think about the students who are going to be caught in the middle of all of this. Imagine, you've spent years dreaming of studying in Australia. You've invested all this time and money, and then, bam, suddenly the rules change.
It's true. These decisions have real human consequences. For some students, this fee increase could be the deciding factor between pursuing their dreams and having to make a really tough choice.
And it's not just about the students themselves, right? Think about what this could do to the universities in Australia.
Oh, absolutely.
We've talked about how much they rely on that revenue, but there's also the whole issue of reputation.
Yeah, if Australia starts to be seen as less welcoming or, less accessible, that could really damage their brand in the long run.
Especially when you consider that other countries are offering some pretty attractive alternatives, like post-study work options and even pathways to permanent residency.
Yeah, Australia's got to be careful. They don't want to lose their edge.
It's all about that global talent pool.
It is.
Countries are competing for the best and brightest, and decisions like this fee hike send a pretty clear message. It's like they're saying, hey, we're raising the price of admission, so you better be bringing something special to the table.
And the question is,
Yeah.
will the talent still come knocking?
Yeah.
Will they be willing to pay that premium
Mm-hmm.
for an Australian education? Or will they say, you know what, I can get better value elsewhere?
Right. So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the Australian economy as a whole. We know international students contribute billions of dollars to the Australian economy every year. What happens if those numbers start to drop?
Well, think about it this way. Every student who chooses not to go to Australia is a missed opportunity, not just in terms of tuition fees, but also all that spending they would have done in the local economy. Landlords, restaurants, shops, everyone benefits. When there's an influx of students.
It's that classic short-term gain, long-term pain kind of situation.
Exactly.
They might get a little bit of extra cash up front, but what if it means fewer students overall in the long run?
And you also have to think about, the cultural exchange, the diversity that international students bring. That's a loss that you can't really put a price tag on.
Absolutely. It's a good reminder that even policies that might be well-intentioned can sometimes have unintended consequences. You have to look at the whole picture, not just the bottom line.
Well said. It's easy to get caught up in the numbers, policies. But ultimately, this is about people, their lives, their aspirations, their choices.
So here's the so what question. Even if our listeners aren't planning to study in Australia, why should they care about this story?
Because it's a microcosm of what's happening globally. We're seeing similar trends in other countries as well. Shifts in immigration policies, changing priorities when it comes to attracting skilled workers. The world is becoming more interconnected. And what happens in one place can really have ripple effects everywhere.
So it's not just about Australia. It's about understanding the forces that are shaping the future of education and work on a global scale.
Precisely. And recognizing that we're all part of this interconnected system. The decisions made by governments, universities, individuals, they all contribute to the bigger picture.
This has been a fascinating deep dive. We've gone from a simple news item about a fee increase to a much broader discussion about global talent flows and the choices facing students and nations alike.
It's a reminder that even seemingly small or technical details can have far-reaching consequences.
And that's why we deep dive, to uncover those hidden connections and make sense of this complex world we live in.
All right, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive.
That's been a pretty wild ride. It has. I feel like we started with just like one tiny little news story, and we just kind of kept pulling on that thread. And we ended up with this huge tapestry of global talent flows, the future of higher education, the impact on individual students.
Like a domino effect.
It is. It makes you realize how much power just one policy change can have.
Especially one that might seem kind of minor at first glance.
Yeah, exactly. So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's bring it all back to you, the listener, even if you're not planning to pack your bags and head off to study in Australia.
Even if you're not.
I think there's some really important takeaways here.
There are. This whole story, it really highlights just how interconnected the world is becoming.
Like more and more every day.
Yeah. It's almost like, what happens in one country inevitably ends up affecting other countries.
Exactly. Like we were saying earlier, it's a chain reaction.
Right.
Australia makes this move, and then other countries start to rethink their own policies, and then that impacts students and universities all around the world.
It's a good reminder to stay informed about those global trends, even the ones that don't seem directly relevant to you.
Yeah, because in a way, we're all part of this global talent ecosystem.
We are.
We're all competing for those opportunities.
And the rules of the game keep changing.
Exactly. Which brings us to this really big question. What does the future hold for international education?
It's the million-dollar question.
It is. Will we see more countries following in Australia's footsteps? Or will things go in a different direction?
Will this lead to more competition? Or will we start to see more collaboration between nations?
And how will students adapt to this changing landscape?
Will they be willing to pay a premium to study in certain countries? Or will they start to prioritize affordability and access?
So many questions.
And unfortunately, no easy answers.
No, but they're the kind of questions that we need to be thinking about.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with just one final thought.
Keep asking those questions.
Stay curious.
And be aware of the forces that are shaping the world around you.
Because knowledge is power.
It is.
And the more we understand, the better equipped we'll be to face those challenges and seize those opportunities that are coming our way.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
We'll see you next time.